relationships are being restored. So come on and go with me. Come on and go with me.
Because there was so many like ups and downs and turmoil, and you know what I'm saying? So we get married. Not only we get married, they're like, oh, you guys can stay, and have a visit for an hour. Like he said, it was just me and him. That's it. And the CO even left the room. They usually sit there. We were in there by ourselves or whatever. So I was like really grateful for that. Like he said, we know that was nobody but God. You know what I mean? But it really, really dawned on me when I was leaving. Because when I was leaving, a FedEx guy pulled up. And there was on lockdown to the point where they told me, sit in here. We have to wait for him to bring, and they never do that. We have to wait for him to bring the stuff in. Then you can walk out. So basically, they didn't even want people going through the door at the same time. So I'm like, all right. So I'm standing there. The clergy lady, she had already left. So finally, he's bringing in the boxes. He finally, the CEO's like, all right, you can walk out. Another CEO is walking at the same time, and he's telling the FedEx guy, like, why don't you apply for a job? And he's like, oh, for what? He's like, why, what's going on? He was like, oh, they just fired like 400 COs.
What?
So when I tell you it was on lockdown, like it was, I was like, oh my God, are they for real? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because the consulate said it, we're really not supposed to. Yeah. She said, but because your husband is a good inmate, he doesn't give us, he does. She said, you guys, like, you people like y'all. You know what I mean? Like, and we know that you guys been waiting for a long time. And it was like, and your husband does not give us a hard time at all. Like, he's a good, he's a good inmate. He's a good person, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. So, but when I left, it was like, whoa, 400 COs got fired. Yeah. You know what I mean? So lockdown, yeah, so 400. That's crazy. So that's when I really know. I was like, oh my God, this was really you doing it. So, but and things will happen. Like he said, I drive him crazy. And sometimes I want to two-piece him. I always say that. Sometimes I want to two-piece him, but you learn. You know what I'm saying? Like he said, when you know that something is for you, it's for you. And God is going to constantly confirm it to you. He's going to constantly confirm it to you. There's been time where I got really pissed at him. And I was like, you know what, God, I don't know about this. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know that, especially when he first came home, because we were getting to know each other. So we were kind of, I would say I was clashing with him because he's just laid back, like, whatever. You know what I mean? I was clashing with him a lot.
But I did things that when she actually explained to me, I realized the wrong in it. Because at the time, I'm like,
that's nothing.
She should understand. Like, I just came home, but I'm a husband.
Yeah.
So the things that I want to do is like, I'm just out of jail. I want to go somewhere.
And that was fine with me.
I shouldn't be somewhere with my wife and slide on her. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it, but when she brought it back to me, I was like, oh.
Yeah. So let's explain that story. Let's get into details, right?
So we was at a church function. Well, we went to a church function. It was something that had a roller skating party. And he invited me to go. So I was like, yeah, why not? So me thinking that since my wife is with church people, she's comfortable, I think, where she's at. Like, it shouldn't be no issue with me bouncing with him. So I'm like, all right, I'm about to go over here to her, and she's like, all right. And the way she said it kind of rubbed me, but I didn't catch it immediately. I was just like, all right, that was kind of cold, but all right, I'll be back. And I went to the party, whatever, and it was what it was, and came home. She ain't say nothing she ain't say nothing to me. She ain't say nothing about it. She ain't say nothing about the church thing or nothing like that. And I think it was like the next day or something. It was like, you think it's right for a husband to do this, that, you know the way you talk. And I'm like, what was the big deal? I'm like, what was so wrong with that? Mm-hmm. And it took me a few for it to resonate, to really see it, where she was coming from with that. Because that was something I would have done before to a girlfriend, but I wouldn't have been out with a girlfriend. So it was just like, it was inconsiderate. And especially in the fact that we're both in a new place. Like, she's only here for me. She's only in Connecticut for me. and she's only in that space for me. So for me to leave her in that space alone without me was bad husbandry. But I didn't get it immediately. It had to sit with me for a while and really go back and look at it in my mind and say, yeah, that wasn't good. Like you messed up, and you just got there. You've already messed up.
That's exactly how I was looking at it. Like, you just came on and you already doing stuff.
And
That that ain't
and
sitting right with
again,
me.
it's like I'm like, give me some like leeway with that, you know. Like, she had expectations on me, like she said it should be instinct, and that's not true. These certain things about being a husband are not instinct; they're learned. And for me, that was a lesson that I learned, because, like I said, I didn't see the big deal in it. Only the fact that, okay, I just came home, so it might have been wrong. But at the same time, I just came home, so I wanna go out. I wanna see things.
Which wasn't a
I wanna
problem.
do. So, you know.
Which wasn't a problem. My thing was, like he said, we're not from here, for one. Church people are not. We came here together, right? Like, I'm here for you. I'm in this church because of you, right? And I'm at this event because this is the church that you said you were called to be at, right? So we're at the church. I don't know these people. I only been going there for like, what, maybe 2 months? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I don't know these people. I'm not related to none of them. I'm not friends with any of them. They just come to the same church I come to. That's how, you know. And like he said, his friend called him or whatever, and this and that and the other. But there was like a habit of doing that. You know what I'm saying? As soon as his friend, I got to go here, I got to go there. And it was always like last minute. And I'm like, I don't mind you going places, but you need to let me know ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? Let me know, hey, tomorrow I'm probably going to go here with this person. Then I know to plan accordingly, right? Because if I knew you were going to go to this party with your friend, I would have never went to the church event. I would have stayed home. And I would have been like, all right, go with your friend, right? So there was a lot of that going on. It was a lot of last minute, I got to go here with this person. And it's like, no. You're a married man. You prioritize your marriage first, right? You communicate with me. And his communication was like, he'll mention something, but he won't mention the details of it, right? Like, next week I'm going so-and-so. Okay. That day, that's all I heard. Next week I'm going to so-and-so. You didn't tell me what time. You didn't tell me where you was going. You didn't tell me what you was going there for, right? So I wake up that day. I don't forgot about what you told me last week, right? I wake up on this day because you didn't even give me a day. You didn't say Wednesday or Thursday. So I wake up this Thursday, and I'm trying to do this and that with you, and you're like, but I got to go here. And I'm like, you know what I mean? So it was like, all right, this ain't happening. You know, so we was clashing a lot about that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I knew he was out. He just got out. Yeah, of course you're going to want to go places. You got your freedom. You've been locked up for 22 years. I didn't have a problem with that. It was the way that he was going about it. You know, and he's like, well, sometimes he tells me, well, listen, you need to sit him down. I'm married. I need to know ahead of time because my wife needs to know. Again, we're not from here. Do you understand what I'm saying? You went to some party. I don't know your friend like that. You know him. I don't know him like that, right? So it's like you went to a party. God forbid something happens. Right? Yeah. And again, so one day I laughed at him and we got into an argument because we're idolatry. He's looking for something and I was like, I should go to Walmart real quick because it's I think like one store over. And hurry up and get that and just hurry up and get it while he's running around and then come back. I text him like, I'm going to Walmart real quick. I'll be right back. He didn't see my text. He didn't get it or whatever. So I run to Walmart and I come back. No, I don't even think I made it back out of Walmart. Here he comes into Walmart. He's like, why would you leave me at that store? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're right next door from each other. You know what I'm saying? He's like, but we're not from here. And I just came home. I said, that's funny. You feel that way about this, but I wasn't supposed to feel some type of way about you leaving me at an event to go to some party with your friend. Right? So I think that's when they hit him like, oh crap. She's right. I'm only next door. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of things that he was doing, like he said, because this is his first time being a husband, and he didn't look at it a certain way. But I was looking at him like, Common sense should tell you you don't leave your wife somewhere to go somewhere else. That party wasn't important. I'm here at this church event because of you. You know what I mean? And you, whatever. Well, he rationalized it in his head, however. So there was a lot of clashing with stuff like that. But the crazy part about it is every time I got mad at my husband, even now, God would always send somebody to calm me down. And it wasn't somebody that I was venting to. It's not like I was calling a friend like, oh, let me tell you about this mother. You know what I mean? It would be a total stranger, or it would be somebody that I haven't spoken to in a long time. You know, like even his friend's mother, one day called me out of nowhere. She goes, you know, I've been meaning to call you, and I've been meaning to tell you to, you know, be patient. God keeps telling me to tell you be patient with your husband because he just came home. So he's going to make a lot of mistakes. A lot of it's not going to be intentional like you think it is. She was like, he's just going to go about things a little bit different from how you feel they should go. She was like, be patient. I never told that lady nothing, right? But it would always, messages like that would always come from random people when we clashed about things like that. You know what I'm saying? Or clashed about whatever in general, whatever I had a problem with. We would clash about it, right? It never failed. I kid you not, Joy, it would never fail. I'll be in Walmart minding my business, in my head thinking like, you know, like, I don't know, God, I don't know. I don't know about this dude, you know. I know he's not perfect. I know this, but I don't know. And I'm a certain way. I just have a certain way about me. You know what I mean? And like he said, you know, when I was young dating, even with my kids' fathers, once the dude rubbed me the wrong way, I would be like, okay, you gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't feel like I should teach you on how to treat me. I shouldn't have to teach you or tell you how to court me. Or to me, certain things should just be natural. If you don't want me doing it to you, don't do it to me. That's how I look at it. So in my head, I was already like doubt. You know, I was doubting like maybe this isn't the dude for me. God, I don't know. I don't know this. And I would be like at Walmart and randomly, like one dude. It was almost like he was in our house. Because the guy was like, first he acted like he knew me. He's like, hey, sis, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm all right. And I'm trying to think, like, do I know him from, you know? And he's like, you know, life is crazy. And he starts talking about life. And then he starts talking about marriage. I don't know where. And he's like, you know, I don't know why I feel it deep in my heart to tell you this. He was like, well, he was like, don't get mad at me. He was like, but you need to be more patient with your husband. And I just looked at him because I was pissed, right? Like in my head, I'm like, yeah, God, I don't know about this dude. Like, I don't know that. I don't think this is going to work. You know, women, we go from 0 to 100. So my mind was like, pew, 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 pew. Yeah. And then other things come up in your head. Like, yeah. And then he did that this day. Like, you know what I mean? And the guy's like, no, you need to be, you know, he's like, guys, tell me you need to be more patient with your husband. Like, he's learning the same way you're learning. You know what I'm saying? He was like, and although he's older than you are probably more mature in certain things than him. Like, he's going to be more mature in other things than you. You know, and he's like, I don't know why I feel like I have to tell you this. He was like, and he just kept going and going. And then he started talking about his marriage. You know, and he was saying how, come to find out, he also did a lot of time in prison. And when he came home, he was like, I was moving recklessly. He said, not on purpose. You know what I'm saying? He said, but just like the joy and the thrilling of being free. You know what I'm saying? And trying to be a husband at the same time. And he said, you have to remember, this is your husband's first time being a husband. He was like, be patient with him. He was like, I promise you, whatever. He said, and he kept laughing like he couldn't believe what he was saying to me. But it was literally like he was in our house, because even the story he was talking about him and his wife, it was like so parallel to what was going on at that time. You know what I mean? And he was like, you know, just trust God, man. He said, if God told you that's your husband, that's your husband. He was like, you just have to be patient. And the thing that stuck with me, because I'm a firm believer of this iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? He said, and there's gonna be friction. He said, you know, you've seen iron, you know, it's friction, it sparks, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that was his analogy, and that
especially
analogy.
With lava mouth over here.
Huh?
I said, especially with lava mouth over here.
So
it's hot fire. Hot fire.
So he was like, so he started bringing that up. You know, he was like, you know, you got a temper. He said, I can tell. He said, I can tell you don't play. He said, I can tell you're the type that don't play. And I didn't play with dudes. And I would tell him that, like, listen, I ain't put up with nothing with boyfriends. You think you know what I'm saying? So that would always be my thing with him. Like, listen, we either gonna do this or we ain't, because I'm not doing this. And then I would laugh, because I would complain to my friend, like my best friend, I would say something to her, and she'll be like, I understand why you're mad, but he really didn't do nothing though. And I'd be like, bye, click, I would hang up on her. I'm like, I don't want to hear this. You know what I'm saying? But God will always send somebody literally to speak on his behalf. Like, I know you're mad. I know you don't like this, but you know what I'm saying? So God is always going to send confirmation about that person, even after you're with that person. Because that devil, I'm telling you, like, you know, in the Christian world, they will tell you the devil hates marriage more than anything. The devil hates you because God created you. And you can sin and you can go to God and say, God, please forgive me. And if you mean it, he will forgive you. The devil doesn't have that option. He can never be forgiven. He's just out. Right. And anything that God puts together, especially marriage. And that was the crazy part. God brought that back to me way before I even met him. A prophet told me, when you get married, that devil is going to come for you. He's going to do all types of things to ruin your marriage. He hates marriage because it represents God. It's a representation of God. It's a unity that he created. You know, he was like, so listen, he was like, I'm telling you right now. And this is what the prophet told me. He said, and I'm telling you this because your temper is crazy. Right? God brought me back to that night, because there was something else that he did that really pissed me off. And I was going to go sign divorce papers and everything, right? I was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna go get a divorce. Like, we're not doing this. And God brought that back to me in my dream. Like, he literally took me back to that night when the prophet said to me, you're gonna go through some things, but it's not something that he's gonna do intentionally. It's just gonna be you and him. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I learned a lot from my husband. You know what I'm saying? I know he learned a lot from me being like, I tell him straight up how I feel about stuff. I tell him straight up, like, listen, I was offended. I didn't like how you did this. You know, and I know that to a lot of men, to them, they would consider that nagging. Like, oh, she's always complaining because he said that. You always complain about something. Yeah, we live together. If you're doing something that I don't like, I'm going to let you know, right? You either going to stop it, or you're going to learn not to do it after a while, or you're just going to keep it moving, right? You're going to keep doing it to the point where I'm going to get to the point I'm either going to learn to live with it, or I'm going to make a decision of being like, okay, I'm out. It's one or the other. It's a learning thing. And that's what this guy told me. Another random person. You know what I'm saying? Another time when I was mad at him. He's like, you're learning each other. You're learning his good side. You're learning his bad side. He says, same thing with you. He's learning your good side. He's learning your bad side. You know, and again, God brought it back to me. I was always afraid of marriage because it's like, when you really think about it, you're like, damn, this person is going to see me every day. Right? You're going to see them every day. You're going to see the highest of the best of them, and you're going to see the lowest of the worst of them, right? And whatever's in between. And you really don't know. You really don't know. And sometimes you don't even know what's inside of you until you do get married. You know what I'm saying? Because God showed me a lot of myself too. And this is what I was telling somebody. God has to be the middle man, because if he's not, like he said, the divorce rate is high, right? How many times I got pissed at him, and I probably was on my period and was like, I'll go get a divorce. I don't care. Cramping, going crazy. You know what I'm saying? I didn't mean it, because after 3 or 4 days later, I was like, that was kind of harsh. You know what I mean? But you also not only got to have God, but you got to have people around you that actually want to see you together. You got to have good, sound-minded people around you. And if they're married, they have to like their marriage and want their marriage. Because a lot of people are married and they don't care. They just, like he said, you'll be like, are you sure you're married? You know what I mean? Because if they're not respecting their own marriage, they're not going to encourage you to respect yours. They're not going to encourage you to make the right decisions even when you're pissed. You know what I mean? Thank God that God put like 2 people in my life other than my best friend as well. That when I did vent, the times I did vent, they would be like, all right, you done? And they'll be like, all right, let's pray. But they never once told me, leave your husband. They would even say, well, I see why you're mad. Oh, I would be pissed too. But they never said, oh, leave your husband, or suggested to me like, oh, well, maybe you should go talk to, this other person will be better for you. I think this person is more compatible with you. So not only do you got to have God, because God is going to convict and chastise you when you're wrong. Because there are times where we think we're right, or we feel like, no, I'm justified for this. Mm-hmm. And you could be, but it's the way you react. You know what I mean? And one thing I love about him, God know what he was doing. My husband is calm. He's always calm. Like I have been in his face, like you know what I mean? I understand that wasn't him in the past. This is why we didn't meet then, because we would have been literally probably trying to kill each other. You know what I'm saying? Because I was even crazier when I was young, and my mouth was even. I was so disrespectful. You know, like when me and my friends talk about things we said to people when we were young, I'm like, God, forgive us. You know, but we either would have hated each other and would have been like, oh no, we're just cool, or we probably would have tried to be together and probably would have been trying to kill each other. You know what I'm saying? Because we both have strong characters, and that's another thing that people like when they found out I was married to him. It was like you would have thought we were like hood celebrities. Like I people walked up to me that I didn't even know. Oh yeah, you're married to Tunde, huh? Oh, how y'all meet? How y'all this? How y'all that? Did y'all know each other back then? Like 10 million questions, and I'm like, what is the big deal? Like I don't get it. You know what I mean? But people know, like people that knew my character, and they know him. So it's like, how these two people?
Because I had a reputation. Like I said, I was a dog up dogs. I was just,
right.
It was like, why would you marry him?
Right.
I
And that's exactly what a lot of them, they was like, did you know him back then?
Yeah.
Do you know about him? And this is one thing that I said to him. I remember when we was like, okay, because I said to him, okay, I got clear confirmation, because I kept praying about it over and over again, that he was my husband, and God kept confirming it. Every minute I turned around, it was like, okay, you keep doubting it, and he just kept confirming it. But I said to him, I understand that God told you and confirmed to us that we're supposed to be women, husband and wife. I said, but I need to know that you're ready to be a husband, because he had told me about his past. And when we were being friends, like right when I knew, when it was like kind of leading to that, I was like, well, I want to hear about your past from you, because I know how people are, especially in the hood. You get with somebody, or maybe even on a college campus, you know how it is. Girls, you could be single, nobody looks at you. Soon as Joe got a girl, everybody and their mother want him, and I always had a crush on you, Joe. And then they're gonna start saying bad things to your girlfriend to kind of, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of that going, like, oh, do you know him? You know his past? He was a dog, and da-da-da. And I was also known not to date anybody from there, because it's so small. Everybody sleep. If you slept with one person, you slept with literally half of the town, if not more, right? So I always made it my business to date out of state. So it was like, what the hell did he do to get you?
But I did tell her about me.
He did, but he told me about his past.
About me, and I was honest. I wasn't like,
right.
I didn't sugarcoat it. I told her everything.
Right.
Every aspect of me.
Right.
Of who I was. And this was just on the fly. This wasn't about trying to get her or say, yo, I'm not that person anymore.
Right.
Because a thing about our past is, you're gonna prove your past is your past. You can't say it. I don't care how many times you say, I'm not that person, I've changed.
You have to show it.
You've only changed when someone else says it.
Right.
And they're like, I knew him and he wasn't like that. Or I knew her and that's not how she. Like, she's a totally different person.
Right.
That's why when I hear people say they've changed, I watch them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, to me, I don't see no difference.
Right.
But to you, you've changed.
Right.
So, okay.
What changed?
But I was honest about my past with her, simply because I wanted everything on the table.
Right.
And like I said, this was before even God saying like anything about her. We were still getting to know each other.
Yeah, we was just pen pals, just really cool.
Things back and forth.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, just to put it out there, because if anyone found out that she was right with me, they were going to try to deter that, discourage,
even a friendship,
just the conversation.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is me. This is what I've done. This is who I was. I'm not trying to convince you that I'm not that person.
Right. And people did.
Talking.
They were definitely like, literally, like I could be, like I'll never forget the day me and my coworker, we was already married for like 2 years, and me and my coworker, it was a beautiful day out, so we decided, let's walk and get lunch. And I'm walking and some dude pulls up. I'm thinking automatically, he's just gonna try to talk to one of us, And he's like, ain't you, like he says my name. He was like, aren't you Mahalia? No, he said, which one of y'all? Because me and my coworker, people for some reason would get us confused. They thought that we were related and we weren't. And she's like, her. And I look, and I'm looking at her like, why you point to me? Like, what if he wanted to shoot us or do stuff? Like, I don't know. People are crazy nowadays, So he was like, he was like, this is your sister, right? And I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, you're married to Tunde? And I'm like, because I already knew what was coming. And he's like, you know him? You knew him from back then? I was like, no, I never met him, never heard of him. And that's the thing. We both have our names. So even if I heard his name, I think I would remember,
I remember meeting him.
And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, he already told me. He was like, nah, because that nigga, and he went in. Like, he went, I never seen this guy a day in my life, you know? And I'm looking and he was like, what made you marry him? Because I heard that I was like, God. And, you know, as soon as I said so, it got to the point where every time somebody would start, especially when they get to that, how the hell he get you? How he pull you? God. You know, and that's another thing. A lot of females, even some of his, you know, his exes have said little smart things here and there. And I'm like, yeah, he told me. And then they're like, oh, because people do things like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know, and a lot of people that was like, how y'all meet? How did y'all get together? Like, how? And I'm like, God, it was nobody but God. I had my own relationship with God. He had already established his own relationship with God. You know what I mean? And that's what God will do. He will start you off with him first, fall in love with him, build a relationship with him, because he's going to show you things about yourself that you didn't know before. You know, he's going to make you confront things about yourself that maybe it was hard for you to confront. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm noticing that he's not done there. It ain't like he works on you for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years and you're done. No. Now that I'm married, I'm seeing things about myself that I didn't know were there. You understand what I'm saying? I'm seeing things. Not only that, not only do I have, because one thing is for your kid to tell you, oh my, you're this. That's your kid. You know, your kid's going to come out the side of their mouth when they're ready, because they want to justify what they did, what you cussed them out about or put them in their place about. But then when you have another adult, you know what I'm saying? Your partner, your spouse, that you know this person, or you think at least this person genuinely cares for you, and then they're saying the same things, and then it's like, dang. Like with the cussing, I have a bad habit of cussing, you know? And my kids would tell me, and I'd be like, okay, whatever, you know, because half of the time was when they were getting told about themselves. And I'd be like, you're just saying that because I'm telling you about yourself. But then you have him, where even if he would pull it out, he would bring it out, even if we're just having a regular conversation, he'd be like, there you go cussing again. There you go cussing. And then it's like, dang, now I have another person, you know, like my person telling me this. So now I really have to look at this. I really have to face this problem that I have. You know, and him being used to, you know, like I told him one day, I said, I'm not throwing your past in your face, but when men are used to having women at their beck and call, at their disposal, where, you know, these women do anything just to be in your presence, and then you come across somebody like me, anything I say, you're going to look at as, oh, she's just nitpicking. Because ain't nobody in my past they never complained. Well, that's them. You know what I mean?
Be careful what you ask God for. That's all I'm going to say. Be careful. Because God will give you exactly what you ask for. Because I told him I needed a strong-willed woman who would keep me in check. Not only spiritually, but who had a strong enough will to where I wouldn't walk over her. Because that was what I usually did. Like I said, that was my way. And I had my way. However I wanted it. And I told God, that's what I need. I need that because, like I said, I have a strong personality, even if it is laid back. I'm commanding in a quiet way. So I knew how to get my way without having to say much or do much. And like she said, I was just used to a certain type of thing, but I knew that wasn't gonna work for me in a real relationship. I knew that wasn't realistic anyway. Right. But so I asked God, and it's like I learned, like, if you ask God for patience, he's going to test your patience. He's not going to give you patience. Right. He's going to make you realize
going to put you through some things.
You need patience with this. Right. So I got exactly what I asked for. And I did too. She's very strong-willed, and she holds me accountable, which I don't mind. It's just the way she does it sometimes.
Right.
But even after that fact, I'll laugh because I'll be like, all right, I know you're laughing at me because I asked for this. Right. And so I got to smile to myself like, okay, you got that.
Right. You got Yeah, and it's the same thing for me. I did. I told him, I was like, I want a strong-willed husband, but laid back. I can't stand a man. Like, don't get me wrong. I know some women, they cause you to argue back with them because I have friends where I've told them, like, I don't believe in men hitting women, but you kind of deserve getting smacked in your face. You know, like, I have some, because some your friends are like you. We got a mouth. You know, I don't know, my mouth can be crazy. So, but I have, there's a friend that I'm like, I be looking at her like, You know what I mean? I'm like, God, am I this bad? Like, there's no way I'm this bad. Please tell me, you know? So, but I also asked for a strong-willed husband because I know how I am. But I was like, God, I don't want him to be disrespectful. I want him to have a way about him that even when he checks me, it's not him coming back crazy at me. Because I had an ex-boyfriend that was like that. You know what I mean? Like, he would do stuff and I would tell him about himself and then we would get into arguments back and forth. Thank God he wasn't a woman beater because I'm not going to lie, I did swing at him a couple of times. You know what I mean? But he would come right back to me like with his mouth. You know what I mean? So we would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's one thing I learned in that relationship. I was like, I don't want that. You know, if give me a husband that's laid back and he will have a way about him that he doesn't have to get loud and rowdy and disrespectful with me to check me. You know what I'm saying? So and I'm learning a lot even with being around my husband. He does have a way about him. You know what I mean? I have my way. My mouth gets crazy and he would just let me go. And then he would calmly answer back every time. It don't matter. You know what I mean? But after a while, it started to convict me. You know what I'm saying? Because one day I was saying something to God about him. I went to God and I was like, you know what? Like I'm, you know, my daughter laughs at me because she's like, Ma, sometimes when you're talking to God, it doesn't sound like you're talking to God, you know? But I'm like going in. He left to work. And as soon as he left, I was like, yeah, God. And like I'm going in with God. And God said, imagine if your husband talked to you the way you talk to him. And I was like, I couldn't even finish what else I was going to say about him. You know what I mean? Because he convicted me so bad because I know me. Somebody disrespect me like that, I'm out. I would be like, you know what? We're done. You know what I mean? And he just convicted me so bad just with that. Like, just imagine if your husband talked to you the way you talk to him. And I was just like, oh, man. Like, I couldn't say nothing else. You know what I mean? So even in his humbleness, and I've been crazy in his face. I've been like, you know what I mean? And he was just like looking at me like, okay. But he never comes out of character. He never has so far, thank God. But that convicted me like really hard that day. And I was like, okay, God. Because I know me. If somebody talked to me like that, I'll be like, peace. I don't care who you say this person is, God. Peace, you know? But, you know, and he, oh my God, when I tell you he got me good. So I think I've gotten better, right? At saying things to you.
Yeah.
The way, you know, so now it is funny because I'm the type.
Interest of my safety, I say. Yeah.
So, whatever. Right. So.
Because I know not to say no. I'm learning, like I said.
My thing is this, like, so now it's funny because, and I was laughing because my friend brought it up the other day. She was like, oh, he did something. But my thing is what I do now is like, I'm like, okay, let me approach it when I'm not mad, when I'm not freshly mad, because I know how I am. Even if I start off calm, he might respond. Even though he's calm, it might not be something I want to hear. So I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So so lately my thing is like, I'm not going to bring it up. I'm not going to, you know, I'll wait until I'm calm. God, please help my tongue to, you know, because he would tell me, I don't mind you telling me what I'm doing wrong. It's the way you say it, you know. But by the time he gets home or by the time I get calm, I don't forgot. You know what I mean? That's why, like, when we talk and I interrupt him, he's like, oh, you always interrupting me. I'm not because I'm being rude. I have to because then I will totally forget what I was going to respond to that specific thing you said. You know, so now I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to pray about it. I'll wait till I'm calm to say something to him. But by the time I calm down and everything happens, I don't forget about it. You know what I mean? So then I got to the point where it's like, okay, well, if you forgot, then it couldn't have been that important. You know what I mean? So I'm learning with him. I'm learning. Like, we're learning each other, but I'm learning with him to just be like, okay, some things don't have to be addressed, right? Certain things don't have to be addressed. And if it's really that important, you will eventually remember to address it. You know? And I have here and there, and I was much calmer. Like, I might have just said it to him. He might not take it serious because I was so calm about it. So he's probably like, oh, she ain't mad. She's just mentioning it. You know what I mean? But, oh, my God. Marriage it's not easy. It's not easy. If it's not something that you actually want, if you really don't love that person, this is why the divorce rate is so high. And a lot of times it's like, you know,
be in love with marriage. Be in love with your marriage, I should say. Don't get married because it's
Your friends
like
are
it's
getting married,
novelty.
or because your
the
friends
one
are doing it.
thing we were clear on is that this isn't just a promise between she and I. It's a promise that we made to God. This is why you do it, before God. I'm making a covenant with Him, which is basically a promissory contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, God, this is my wife till death do us part. And people don't. That means nothing.
Yeah.
That's
A
why
lot of people, I think people forget, like, you're not only making this covenant between you and this other human, you're making it with God. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even like a business. You make a covenant, you make a contract with somebody, and you break it,
getting sued.
repercussions come, right? And then it depends on what kind of business it is. You have to not only pay that person or fix it with that person. You have to. There's a repercussion. You know what I'm saying? It's not just, oh, well, we messed up here
There's
and
a ripple
okay,
effect.
well, fine. Yeah, there's a ripple effect. Like I've noticed too with a lot like women. I've had friends that stayed with men that were cheaters, and I would ask them like, why? Why would you do? Like that's hurting. If it's hurting you this bad, why would you do it? But then when I've sat around them and watched them with their husband, and I see how the husband is with the children, like he's a perfect father. He's a perfect provider. You know what I'm saying? I kind of understood why some women stayed with them. Because if I leave this man, not only am I messing up the family structure, I'm tearing my kids apart too. And then they're going to have their own issues with life because I've seen it happen. I've seen kids that their parents were together and they will like flourish, and you see the difference. And then they get to their teens and their parents get a divorce and the whole family structure, even the kids, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of things. So I've seen it. So it's like, okay, I understand that. But
You have to fall in love with your marriage.
you have to fall. No, you not only have to fall with yourself. This is why it's important to go to God, because God will show you first, and He will deliver you from whatever you allow Him to deliver you from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then when you get with this person, right? You guys now, it's your homework to now you and that person to work it out, but it's not gonna work if you don't keep God in the center. Because He's the one, He's the center of it. He's the one holding everything really together. Because leave it to my flesh, I would have left my husband a while ago with my temper. I probably would have regretted it right after. You know what I mean? But with my temper and the way I am, because I just feel like men should be just a certain, like my friend told me, she's like, you're little, what does she call me? Oh my God, I can't think of the word. She was like, you're, like, I just, the way, because I expect it a certain way, she's like, it doesn't mean it's gonna go your way, and then God said it to me one day, because I'm quick to tell other people, you will be surprised at what people think is normal. You will be shocked. Never assume that somebody knows a lot, or I've sat down with doctors and had conversations with them, and I'm like, outside of the hospital, you think that's normal and you're a doctor? You know what I mean? So it's like, and and somebody told me this is his first marriage. He's never been in a marriage before. And I'm like, yeah, it's mine too. But she's like, yeah, but you are obviously wiser than him in certain things. And there's certain things that he's going to be wiser than you in. Like his patience is crazy. I don't have patience. I'm going to be straight up.
No, she does not.
I'm going to be straight up.
None.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I don't know when I lost the patience, but I did. I don't know if it came with age. I don't know. Trust me, I did. Because even my friends would say it. They're like, yo, you really ain't patient no more. And I'm like, no, I don't got time for this. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I'm like, okay, I don't got time for this. As soon as I see something's taking too long okay, maybe this ain't for me. I ain't gonna bother with it. Let me move on over here. You know what I mean? But with your marriage, you can't do that. You know what I'm saying? And God told me that one day. Yeah, I don't care that you left these boyfriends when they pissed you off or they did something that you didn't like. Those were boyfriends. This is your husband. You know what I'm saying? And like he was saying earlier, like, something that God gives you, you really think you're going to have better than that? You know what I mean? So when you don't appreciate something that God gives you, if you're not willing to take your time with something God gave you, what makes you think if you walk away from that, He's going to give you something else? Because basically you're telling God you don't know better. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't know better. You don't know what you're doing, God.
Excuse my French, but you got big balls to tell God that.
You know what I'm saying?
He doesn't know what He's
right.
doing with you. It's
He's gonna
crazy.
look at you like, okay, you think you know, and there's a scripture that I always tell my husband that scares the hell out of me, where he says, I will hand you over to your sin. Because God will send you warnings. Look at all these different people. That wasn't a coincidence. He would send me random people every time I got pissed at him, and my flesh rose to the point where I was like, I'll leave this mother effer. Because that's how I was talking. Like, I'll leave. He's getting on my nerves. You know what I mean? And my friends would be like, I understand you, man, but. So if I had friends that was like, yeah, girl, leave him. You see what I'm saying? Once you let doubt come in, that thing is going to grow so fast and so quick. And that devil's going to send you all the wrong people. So I thank God for my friends that were like, I understand you're pissed, Mahalia, but, calm down.
Run with it.
And then, you know what I mean? Or they would pray with me. They would pray with me like, all right, let's pray now. You know what I mean? So it's not only is it important that you have God, because he's number one. If you don't have him, it's not. And that's with anything, to be honest. That's with anything. Mm-hmm. You got to have good-minded friends. People that even if they're not married, that they still respect what God is doing with you and that person. That's still, even, you know what I'm saying? Because I have friends that are single. And they're both actually single. And they have given me very good advice. And they pray with me every time I got pissed off to that point. You know what I mean? And then I know married people that was like, do what I do. I cheat. I've had people tell me that. And they're Christian. You know what? When he pissed me off, I don't argue with him no more. I just go do me. What? Yeah. So you have to be very careful with who you have around you and who you're telling your business to, because you very well could be venting to the devil itself. You're gonna vent because your spouse, you're aggravated. I know he got aggravated with me before. You know what I mean? But we just have to be careful who we go to. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I would be like, you know what? I will go to God and I'll be like, God, send me somebody that I can talk to, because I don't want to just call somebody out of my flesh, and then next thing you know, they're talking like, yeah, she wants to divorce him. She want, he's doing, and people will exaggerate things and they will lie on top. Oh, he probably cheating on her. She just is like, it can go from 0 to 100.
That's what it is. You guard your marriage. Your marriage.
Yes.
You put a shield of protection around your marriage.
You prioritize it.
That's why you have to be in love with your marriage.
Yes.
And that's why.
But you have to be in love with God first to even see
it. That's why I said that's why this is called falling in God's love. You fall in love with him. You fall in love with yourself, then you will fall in love with the one that is meant for you. But then now it becomes something that you both protect.
Yes.
Because you love it so much. Love the promise that God gave you, but love the promise that you made to God.
Yes.
Say equally.
Part.
Because the promise, we claim the promises that he gives to us.
Yeah. But what about what you say to him?
Right. This and that. I'm claiming that, I'm claiming this. But what about what you said to him? That's why he said, don't ever say my name and make a promise.
Yes.
Because you can't promise what he can't.
Right.
Because you're going to disappoint. Like I said, you're going to let someone down with that promise that you can't keep. And you may not have meant it, but when it comes to marriage, you better not say, this is something I can't keep. Because you're telling God, oh, well, let's try again. And I guarantee you, unless the one that you was with was not the one meant for you, you're going to keep failing. And that's what anything when God is concerned. So we fell in love with God separately.
Yes. We already had our own relationship.
This is why we came together.
He didn't turn to God when he met me. I didn't. So he already had his own personal relationship with God.
I'm not going front. When people found out that this was the person I was dealing with, all of a sudden they were going to church.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy.
And I found it amusing, because it's like, don't go to God to get me.
Go to God because you want. Yeah.
I'm not yours.
Right.
And that's not gonna get me to now say turn my head the other way when God has focused me over here. And that's what the devil tries to do.
Oh, he will.
He wants you to look.
He's gonna set on top of distractions.
Because the look is a distraction. And if you look, you might be, oh, okay. He's like, nah, keep your eyes on him. Yeah. That's why he said, train your eyes on the Lord.
Yes.
And that's what we have to do. That's what marriage is. My marriage is trained on him.
Yeah.
I'm the head of the household, but he's the head of my life.
Yes.
Therefore, he's the head of our household.
Yeah.
So like I said, we fell in love with him enough to give him his place.
Yes.
That's why we can give each other the place in each other's lives. That's why the love right here is something that will withstand every attack that comes against it, because God has put us on display. This is what I realize. That's why it has drawn so much attention. And people always asking, well, how? And then everything else. They want, yo, like, how? You know, when she does this, and that, and it's like, well, I said, if it gets to me that much, I go to God. But for the most part, I'm not that easily rattled.
He's really not.
You have to really touch a nerve. And I will say this, she's probably the only woman that could ever hurt me. Ever. And she's done it. She's done it. And I don't like it. I don't like it to the point. But it also lets me know that I love her. Because no one has ever been, you can't hurt me.
Right.
I don't care enough
Right.
for you to hurt me.
Right.
I love this woman so much that it's like I'm like a marshmallow. Almost like she could just poke and I'm like, wow.
Yep.
You know, but I like that as well because like I said, no one has ever been able to hurt me. I've been impenetrable as far as emotional things concerning any relationship.
Right.
No one could hurt me. I know this woman can, and that's not a bad thing. Like, people are going to hear that and they're going to say, well, shoot, why would you? Because it lets me know that it's real.
Yeah.
Because I've given myself over to something that could cause me to feel that way. That's a good thing. People may not recognize it because they haven't fallen in God's love yet.
Yeah.
You haven't fallen in love so much that
You're vulnerable.
you are so afraid to disappoint something. I don't want to disappoint God. I don't want to disappoint her. That's how I look at that. To me, that's equal. I am so afraid of disappointing God, and I'm afraid of disappointing her. So when she says something that I did something that caused her to feel some type of way, it's like, man, I'm messing up. And I feel some type of way inside, like, yo, you're not supposed to be, I start beating myself up, like, okay, fix this. How do I fix this? God, fix this for me.
And he really does.
Something.
He does. He tries his best.
It's
I can
like,
actually say that.
you need that though, because that's how you grow. Like the scars I have on my body, they healed. That hurt that she may have given, it heals, but I learned from it. Like when I fell off my bike and tore my knees up, I'm like, okay, I don't like that. So I'm gonna have to learn to keep my balance. So where, I'm doing wheelies, I'm standing on doing this, I'm crazy on the bike. Used to be anyway. To where I would get on a bike and go 120 miles an hour, and not think nothing of it. But I had to learn by the falls and the mistakes and things like that, by the pain. I learned. Marriage, there's gonna be some scars.
Yeah.
But scars are a good thing. You don't like it when they happen, but then you have a story to tell. And I know the people watching us are watching the story unfold because
Constantly.
it's unfolding with us too.
Constantly.
But then we always have something to give someone. God has put us on display for a reason. He made it happen the way he did to cause people to be drawn to it. It's annoying because I hate attention. Hate it. I've always, like I said, fall to the back. I can't stand it. She's the same way.
Man, I'm a
She
private
doesn't
person.
want anyone in her business. I'm like that. I don't want. I enjoy that too. God said no. This belongs to me,
Right.
and I'm putting it out there.
And I'm gonna get the glory out of it.
And that's why we're doing this podcast, because it was a conversation. We knew we were going to have to do this.
Yeah.
We knew there was going to be so many things that so many people needed to hear that only we would be able to say it in a way, because the way they've heard it before sounded too far-fetched, or it was fantasy-like, or for
Or
whatever
just
reason they just
something
didn't
wasn't
receive it.
right. Yeah.
And like, even when I talk to people about God, I don't shoot a bunch of verses at them, and I talk to them in a certain way that we relate, because I sound like them. I don't think I'm up here. I'm not trying to preach at you. I'm just trying to share what God did for me and what he wants to do for you.
Right.
And that's what this marriage is.
Right.
I'm not giving you my marriage. That belongs to us.
Right.
God is not giving you our marriage, but
Right.
he's allowing you to see what
that
it
it
should
can be done. And it can be done, because a
Yeah.
lot of people, like you said, he never saw himself being married. Me either.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was like, I didn't see a marriage that I looked up to and was like, oh, I want that. I never. If anything, was the opposite. It was like,
Yeah.
this is what married people
Yep.
do.
Disappointment.
I'm good. You know what I mean? And it
Disappointment.
was just too many times, almost all over the place. You know what I mean?
But Public
So-
Enemy said can't trust it.
Right. You know, like even pastors. You know what I'm saying? You knew a pastor from the neighborhood, and one day you're like,
Sleeping
wait a
with
minute, that
everybody.
ain't your wife. What you
Yeah.
doing over here? You know what I mean? I'm getting out of the club, and I'm going somewhere, and you're here with some, like, what do you know what I mean? So it's like, yo,
Yeah.
I just saw Pastor so-and-so.
Yo.
You know what I mean? So
my
it's
boys,
like,
my boys, my boy, he passed, but his mother's church, right? I used to call his Reverend Booty, cause he was just running. He was getting it all over the place, you know. And I think his little brother is one of Reverend Booty's kids, but I ain't gonna get into that. But I called him Reverend Booty, and that was one of those things that kept me from the church, cause it's like, this is what it looks like to me from the outside. So imagine what other people look like. Like, how are you drawing someone to God when you doing the same thing they do? Only you supposed to be doing this. Because even the one who's the furthest from God knows you're supposed to be different. Knows you're supposed to conduct yourself in a certain way. And when they see you doing the exact same things they're doing, it's like, what do I need God for? And this is why this marriage is on display, because the way that it came into being manifest shows that this is why. This is what you need God for. You need God to put your life in order, to give you someone who's going to stand by you no matter what, to teach you how to be you and how to love others, to be considerate, to be patient, to be strong in your faith. How do you stand firm when the foundation's crumbling?
Right.
Because, like I said, people are designed to disappoint. Humans, we're designed to disappoint.
because we're not perfect
And
at all.
you have to withstand the disappointment. And you can only do that by having a strong structure. Your foundation can't be others. Our foundation can be nothing but God. Because if we let others in, they're trying to tear us apart.
Problems.
That's
A
all
lot.
it is.
Could be,
They
and
wanna
it could
tear
be
us
anybody.
apart.
It could be your own mom. It could be
Yeah.
your best friend.
Could be
It could
anyone.
be your brother. You know what I'm saying? Simply because he misses you hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Oh, ever since he got married. And that's another thing. People are going to talk to you about your marriage like, oh, God, you do yeah, that's my marriage. I'm supposed to prioritize it. Nothing comes before your marriage. Nothing comes before your spouse, because it's you and that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything comes secondary to you and that person. And people are going to try to clown you, especially if you get married at a young age. Because I know guys that got married at a young age and their friends clown, oh, man, that's crazy. There has to be change, right? Like, even if you leave this doing engineering to another subject, you now have to change your mindset to learn that. And there's going to be things that you're going to have to do to accomplish that education or that trade, right? You can't stay the same. You can't go in there with just, well, I'm an engineer and I'm going to bring this. No, they're going to look at you like, hell no, get out of here. This is something totally different.
Yeah.
There might be some things that you can relate,
Yeah.
but it's going to be totally different. So, of course, when you're married, you're going to move differently. You're supposed to. And God has told me that. First of all, you're going to stop talking about leaving my son because you're pissed. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to stop talking crazy to him. He is not these boyfriends. I don't care what you did to your ex-boyfriends. I don't care how many you left. I don't care how crazy you talk to them. This is my son and this is your husband. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of times where I went to God about something he did that I didn't like, and God would be beating me down about how I went about it.
What you got to understand about my wife is she's a runner. She used to run track, but she's one
Really?
that if she don't like it, she's out. She feels some type of way, she's out. She even told me that. She's like, I'll leave. I don't care. I'll leave friends. I'll leave this. I'll leave. She just
No,
bounces.
I do.
She
no,
don't
once
like
somebody
it, she's
rubs me the
gone.
wrong way and I feel like what they did was shady,
Yeah, she's
I'm not
done
going to
with it.
argue with you.
So
Bye.
my thing is not trying to never give her a reason to run, or to feel like the starting pistol needs to be. I'm just trying to make sure that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, and I've learned that doesn't mean walking on eggshells,
Right.
because that's what I was doing at first.
Right.
I'm like, is this wrong? Is that wrong? And that's not no way I should be. because now
Right.
I'm uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And I'm not being me because I'm being stiff and rigid. And that's not a marriage. Marriage is fluidity.
Yes.
Especially when, like I said, when God is in the midst of it, it flows the way it should.
Yeah.
Even when the
Bumps
couple
and-
waves come.
Yeah.
Some are higher than others, but when that person is meant for you, when it's God's love that's in the midst of it, that ship is only gonna rock, but it's gonna withstand
It's gonna withstand
that
yes.
storm.
Yes.
That's why Jesus walked into a storm that he sent them into and said, "Why are you afraid?
Right.
I'm right here with you. What are you afraid of?"
Right.
So I have no reason to fear with you. I have no reason to fear the storms that come with you, because God is in the midst of it and we're going to ride that.
Right.
I might jump out and surf it, but you know, I'm going to ride it.
I think it's just the way that I have approached him in the past that made him feel that way. But I'm like, you know, and I'm like that even with my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna be real with you, with whatever. I don't care what it is. You know what I'm saying? My delivery might be crazy. You know, you might be like, I can't believe she said that to me. But but this is me. You know what I mean? Because I'm the type of person where if you come to me about something, you could be cussing at me, Joe. I might be like, damn, he really went off, but what he said was true. I don't really focus too much on the delivery. I focus on whether what you're saying is true or not. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're coming at me crazy and what you're saying is true, now I know you're just coming for me.
See,
you know what I mean?
I'm different.
He's the
now
opposite.
The way you come at me, I'm not listening.
See?
I can't hear what you're saying because
So-
the way you coming at me
Right.
is like, okay, this is nothing but disrespect.
Right.
I can't hear you. And being that I'm not who I once was, I can't do what I used to do. So I just shut down. Because before I just punch you in the mouth. Like, who you talking to? Now it's like, all right, I just got to take it. And that's like, you know, that's what I'm saying, where you have to have a certain armor to be a husband, because you're going to take some blows. Maybe you shouldn't have to take and you can't dodge, but you're going to take them anyway. You have to be able to withstand that as well, because there's nothing worse than the person who you love the most hurting you. So when that happens, you better have God, because that's the only thing that's gonna soften. You know, he's the only one that's gonna rub that wound and kiss it for you and say it's all right. Just, you know, go back over there. You're good.
Right. But that's the thing. God is going to guide you. Like, God is going to guide him in the times that I hurt him, right? Because of whatever I said or how I came at him. God convicted me and chastised me and guided me through it. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have God in your ear, you may ruin a good relationship, a good marriage, because your flesh is going to kick in. And you're going to be like, I don't got time for this. That's why the divorce rate is so high. I also know a lot of people that got divorced 10 years ago and now they're back together again because they got a divorce. They went out there thinking that they got better. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it looked better. It might have felt better at the moment. But as time went on, they realized, okay, this isn't, you know what I'm saying? So, and I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I always told God that when I want to get married one time, I don't want to get divorced.
Exactly.
So don't give me a man that's literally going to cause me to literally feel that way and literally say, okay, I have to actually go sign divorce papers. You know what I mean? But it's like I told my friend, I said, I've learned to love my husband. You know what I'm saying? And it's different from, to me, it's different from falling in love. Falling in love, you can fall in love, you can fall out of love. You know what I mean? But when you learn, once you learn to be an engineer, you can't unlearn this. You know what I'm saying? The day you die, if you die at 80, 90 years old, this is going to be like in your DNA. You know what I mean? So it's like, and even things that we're taught growing up, how to clean, how to do things. You do it even if you don't realize you're doing it when you move into your own apartment. If your mother taught you how to clean a certain way, you're more than likely you're going to be cleaning your apartment that same way, even if it's 40 years later, right? So once you learn something, you can't unlearn it, right? So it's like, you know, I was telling my friend, I was like, well, you know, I'm you know, like I said, I'm in trouble. I said, because I'm learning to love my husband even in his flaws, right? And I'm like,
As you should.
yeah, as we should.
That's what we're supposed
But
to
some
do.
people don't. A lot of people, even when people call me and they tell me about why they got a divorce or why they don't want to be with this person anymore, and this is what I tell them. Well, this is how you know this person's not for you. You know what I mean? Because if something isn't saying, okay, he pissed me off about this when he did that, but when you're calm, you're like, I'm not leaving my husband. You know what I'm saying? I'm not leaving. Like, he's been home for, what, a year and a half now. And I haven't said to him, we haven't really gotten into any arguments, right? It's been a little while. We've gotten to some things where it's like, I don't know about
argument if only one person is speaking.
Anyway, or disagreements, right, or whatever. But I haven't had that like, what I was doing when he first came home. I'm gonna leave him. You know what I mean? So it's like I have to sit back and I had to sit back and just watch him and be like, okay, he really thinks this is normal, but it ain't. You know what I mean? So I would let him know, like, okay, this is really bothering me. I don't like this. And I always tell him, and you got the freedom to tell me what you don't like about me. His thing is always like, is your mouth. You know what I mean? So now I'm trying my hardest, and I've been asking God, please help me with my delivery. Please help me with my temper, because it's the temper is the temper. So it's like I'm learning a lot about myself, even with him. And I even apologized to my daughter because I was talking to my daughter about it, and she was like, imagine you being the mother. You're a kid. You can't talk back to your mom. So your mom's just like, she's like, and granted, Ma, you were telling the truth. She was like, but the way you would say things, you know what I'm saying? So I had to apologize to her because here we are, this big grown man, right? Been in jail for 22 years. You would think that still something I say shouldn't bother him, right? To that extent. But it does. You know what I'm saying? So like he said, when you love somebody, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable. So they are going to hurt you. Even if they don't mean to hurt you, they are going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? I found myself apologizing to my daughter a lot because she'll tell me now. Now that she's an adult, she'll be like, no, Ma, that was hurtful. I understand you were pissed because of what I did, but that was, you know what I mean? So, and I will still always encourage my kids, like, I don't care how mad you think I'm going to get. I still need you to tell me the truth. You know what I'm saying? I still need, because I don't want to hear it from somebody else. Don't no parent want to get a call like, yeah, your daughter or your son, you know what I mean? I want you to be real with me. You know what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, I'm probably going to get mad. God forgive me.
Woman, we can have a parenting episode, but this one.
No, but I'm just saying, like, that's what I say to him too. Like, okay, I understand that, my mouth is crazy, but I need you to still trust enough or to where you don't have to walk on eggshells. You know what I'm saying? I still need you to be yourself. I still need you to be you. I still need you. If I'm doing something you don't like, tell me. I'm gonna try my best. Like he's complaining about me leaving when girls wash their hair, we roll up the hair, and I had a bad habit of leaving it. You know what I'm saying? Until he kept nagging me, and then it was like, okay, finally one day I remember, like, oh, let me take, and throw it out now before I even get out the shower. Because once I step out the shower, I'm not thinking about it. So it's little things that make big differences, right? It's the little things, like they say, it's the little things. So, but you're learning. You learn to live with this person. You learn that, okay, this is what they do. Okay, you know what? He did that, but he probably didn't see it as offensive. So I'm going to let it slide. You see what I'm saying? But if he does it again, I'm going to bring it up.
And you know what? There's an older couple in our church, Mother Palmer and Brother Palmer. They've been married for I don't know how many years, but I look at things like that. And it's like, being a married man now, I'm realizing that those older people who've been married for 50, 60, however many years, it wasn't always good between them. They've been growing to that point. And marriage is a continuing growth and metamorphosis together. At least it should be. Like, I shouldn't be growing and she's stagnant, or she's stagnant or she's growing and I'm stagnant. It shouldn't be that. We should be growing together and it should flow. Like I said, this has been Falling in God's Love. I'm Babatunde. This is my wife, Mahalia. This is Engineer Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for just being a part of this. And thank God for letting us have this conversation. I pray it helps somebody. I pray somebody learns something. I pray someone grabs something from it that helps them. But yeah, God bless.
Relationships are being restored. So come on.